welcome to this lunchtime training session for Pally Talk on how to start your virtual assistant business. Let's get started and see where we go. So thank you for joining me for this session. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about you, your vision for your VA business. We're going to talk about the VA industry. We're going to talk about the business fundamentals, including what you should offer as a VA, how much you might want to charge, who might want to work with you. We're going to talk about finding those all-important clients, how you're going to get them, what you're going to say to them. And we're also going to talk about the support that you need to be successful as a virtual assistant. But you might be thinking, who in the hell are you? You might know I'm Amanda Johnson, but you may not know anything else about me. So let me just share a very little bit. So I'm an award-winning business coach, but I have niched in supporting virtual assistants and freelancers. I actually launched my own VA business back in 2012, but I had started to research the industry back in 2008 after a life-changing event. And so in 2008, my children died, and it caused me to reevaluate life and to realise that life was too short. And I did what a lot of people do during grief, is I sat on my living room floor one day and I was spending money. New double glazing, new central heating, you name it, I was doing it. But I could never ever get hold of the tradesman. And I sat there one day and thought, do you know what? You need admin support on a pay-as-you-go basis. And having done some sort of bookkeeping and admin for my dad growing up, I thought I probably need to be insured for this. So I rang an insurance company and said to them, hi, I'm looking at doing this business. I want to create this thing. It's going to be pay-as-you-go admin support as and when you need it. And the guy said to me, so you're going to be a VA then? I said, a what? He said, you're going to be a virtual assistant. I said, I have no idea what you're talking about. What is a virtual assistant? He said, well, it's exactly all of the things that you're talking about. It's pay-as-you-go admin support as and when you need it. And I was like, oh yes, I'm going to be one of them then. And that was the research that I started back in 2008. Because I was in the military, I couldn't leave and start straight away. But eventually I sort of launched my VA business in 2012. But since 2014, I've run the UK and Europe's leading VA training company. I now run a company that's called VACT Limited, and we're home to the VA Training Academy, the UK VA Conference, the UK VA Awards. And I also an online directory for virtual assistants, which I've actually mothballed at the moment because we used it to help VAs get clients, but it's not the way that VAs get their clients at the moment. So that's currently parked. I'm also a Society of Virtual Assistants and the PA Show Advisory Board member to make sure that from an SVA perspective, we look at the training elements of VAs, but from a PA Show perspective, we make sure that the VA message is covered off in what they do. I'm also the UK's representative on OIVAC, which is an organisation supporting VAs on a global basis, but actually they run the only international VA conference, they run the only international VA awards, and so I'm the UK rep on that. But the reality is, I'm a professional administrator with over 36 years experience. I'm a military veteran, I'm a wife, I'm a mum, I'm the laundry fairy, I'm the chauffeur for the school runs, the taxi driver, the cleaner, you name it, that's me. I am you. I am exactly the same as you, wanting to build and create this business. So whilst talking about you, what has led you to be here today? Why do you want to become a virtual assistant? Now, for most people, if you haven't yet launched, the thing that has stopped you to date is self-belief, ability, support, commitment, worried about, do you have the right skills to deliver this? Do you have the right sort of sense to be, or the right mindset to be self-employed? And I'd love it if you could just tell me in the chat, actually, how you feel about setting up as a virtual assistant. If you could tell me, do you feel any of those things that you're currently seeing on the screen? Do you worry about self-confidence? Do you worry about your ability or anything else? Because it will help me to tailor some of the bits that we're going to talk about as we go through. But ultimately, you might be sat there thinking, The VA market's saturated. There seems to be lots of VAs out there at the moment. And that's the biggest thing I've heard since COVID, is everybody says to me, Amanda, the market is saturated since COVID. And it's not. It really isn't. And people worry that they have the same skill set as another VA. But do you know what? They're not you. And I want this to be about you, and I want you to be your version of awesome, okay? So I want you to ask yourself these questions. What do I want? What's the big vision I am trying to achieve? What's going to motivate me? What's going to keep me focused? But actually, what's going to happen if I take no action whatsoever? And what will becoming a virtual assistant give me? Now, in my case, initially I wanted to launch a business that gave me the freedom and flexibility to be there for my young family. Well, do you know what? My children are now slightly older. I launched my business when my eldest was 2 and my youngest wasn't even a twinkle. But nowadays my boys are 15 and 11. And actually, one of them has a health condition. And so for me, being in the VA world is still about having the freedom and flexibility to do what I want when I want. But for you, you might be an entrepreneur at heart. You may be facing redundancy. You may have been recently made redundant and thinking, shit, I need a career. I need to do something else. Maybe you're a parent who's juggling a young family, or you're a person who's juggling the caring responsibilities for elderly parents. You're part of that sandwich generation. Maybe you have a health condition or a partner with a health condition and you're managing that. Maybe you want that flexible career and you want to go travelling. But I really want you to hone in on why now? Why am I doing this? What is this going to give me? Because if you've been in my world for a little while, you'll know I'm a no bullshit, straight talking, no nonsense type person. Being in business is hard work, and I won't lie to you. And anybody who says to you, yeah, you can earn 10k in 3 months just posting on Instagram 3 times a week is lying to you. The reality is we need to build a business that's going to allow you to have the vision that you're looking for and putting those building blocks in place. So I've mentioned vision. I want you to think about what would you like life to look like in 10 years' time, then 5 years' time, then 3 years' time, then 12 months from today. And I want you to start with 10 years. And the reason I want you to start with 10 and work backwards is because when we go 12, 3, 5, 10, we start to put reality on it. We start to talk ourselves out of things. Whereas actually I want you to think about what would I really like life to look like in 10 years and walk backwards. Now, if you drink alcohol, I always say do this after a large glass of wine. And the reason for that is you're a little bit more honest with yourself. If we sit at our desks and do it, we start to put the reality on it and we start to think, what can I do and what can't I do and all of that. Whereas if we can have a large glass of wine and just write truthfully what we want and then put it away, we tend to get the more honest answer. If you don't drink alcohol, go and have a nice large slice of cake and a cup of coffee in your favourite coffee shop. But take yourself away from your desk or your place of work, okay? And then once you've sort of done the 10, the 5, the 3 and the 12 months, I want you to sit there and actually do a bit of journaling, which feels really strange to me and a bit uncomfortable, but it does work. And I want you to write about a day in the life in the future. So let's say, choose a date 5 years from today, and I want you to literally talk about your office, talk about the work you're doing, talk about how you feel, what it means to get up and do the school run, or all of those things, and know that you're coming back to your space. So literally, just before we went live on this call, I lit myself a candle. I quite often do that when I work from home, to have a really nice smelly candle, the smell that I like and that's invigorating and things like that. Because I know it puts me in that really good frame of mind to do what I'm about to do. So think about those sorts of things. What can you hear? Now, you can't hear it at the moment, but when I haven't got my headphones in, I can hear, I'm pointing, I've got big apex windows to the right of me. I can hear the birds singing, and if the doors are open, I can hear the peacocks on a couple of fields over making a horrendous noise. I can hear the pheasants going up and down my window. Think about your senses and what you want to see, feel and hear. Now, what's really important for me as a business owner is understanding our core values. Now, I always joke that if you cut me through the middle, you would see my core values stamped through me like a stick of Blackpool rock. Now, for most PAs, EAs, admin professionals, we like to make sure that our bosses are in the right place at the right time, wearing the right clothes, holding the right piece of paper, knowing what they're going to have for lunch, knowing who they're going to talk to. We like to be that gatekeeper. We like to be the person that makes sure somebody else shines. We don't like doing it for ourselves. But when we are a virtual assistant, first and foremost, we are a business owner. And so it's really important to know what your core values are and what they're going to look like for your business. Now, for me, your core values can change and they can be affected by culture, environment, personal, professional situation. But I want you to know your core values and I want you to share them on your website, in your social media. Live them. Don't just say them as words, but I want you to really live them. And so if you've never sat down and worked out your core values, there's lots of lists on the internet. Or if you're really struggling, drop me an email and I've got an exercise I can send you which has over 500 core values written in it. And what I want you to do is I want you to initially work out your top 6, then your top 3, and then your most important value. But it's those core values, and generally I say share your top 6 on your website. Now, you can use those values as part of your marketing to attract the people you want to work with. If you're sat there thinking, I have no idea, I've never sat there and captured those core values, and you're really, really struggling, then as I said, drop me a message, happy to send you the values list. But the other thing to think about is, what would you sack somebody for? Because if you were in an employed role and you had staff, etc., and they did something wrong that really went against what you felt was right, often that's the opposite value to what you've got. So if you would sack somebody for being dishonest, theft, those sorts of things, do you know what? Honesty is probably one of your values. So know your core values. Recognise that your business values might be slightly different to your personal values. It often depends what you're coming into this for. I love this quote. You just decide what your values are in life and what you're going to do, and then you feel like you count. And that makes life worth living, and it makes my life meaningful. And that's from Annie Lennox. And I just think it's so true. I could line 100 virtual assistants up with exactly the same skill sets, who offer exactly the same services, whose pricing is exactly the same. But do you know what? What's going to stand them apart is their values. And it's those soft skills. And I want you to think about how you bring that into your VA business. Now, confidence. For most people setting up as a business owner, the thing they say to me is, I haven't really got the confidence. Or they say, oh, I've got this little imposter syndrome who's sat here and it's saying, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. You're a worker. And if anybody's ever had a family member that says, what are you doing? Being employed is so much safer than being self-employed. That self-confidence is going to take a bit of a battering. So the way we improve our confidence is actually to do something courageous. And when we need confidence, we get a little bit of courage to do that thing that needed confidence. We achieve that thing, so our confidence increases, which encourages us to be a little bit more courageous the next time we need to do something. And it's a little bit like a self-propelling cycle or a spiral. The more we do, the more actually it gets easier. And so you might be sat there thinking, yeah, but that's everybody else, Amanda. That's not me. But that's okay. So what I want you to do is I want you to make a list of all the things that you know you need to do, but you also go, I need a bit of courage to do it. Because they're a bit of a challenge and they scare you a little bit. But I'm going to also encourage you to look for opportunities to be courageous. Don't shy away from them. Make friends with it. And actually find somebody who's going to challenge you and keep you accountable. Because often when we've got that person in our back pocket, it's a little bit easier. So here are some of my favourite confidence hacks to make things easier. Pick something scary and do it anyway. There's a book that's called Feel the fear and do it anyway. It's called by Susan Jeffers. I have to be honest, I have it on my bookshelves behind me. I haven't read it. I start it. I find it really difficult. I just can't do it. But all of my clients who've read the book absolutely love it. I think it's her style of writing I find quite difficult. But picking something scary and doing it anyway is a really great way to improve our confidence. You might be a keep a journal type person. Now, my favourite TLA is JFDI. Just insert a word beginning with F, do it. It takes action, it creates momentum, and we just keep doing it. And once we've done it, we feel so proud of ourselves. Many of you will have heard the procrastination or the technique to limit procrastination of eat that frog. Why do they say that? Well, do you know what? We break it down into doing the hardest thing first, we get it done, everything else after eating the frog is so much easier. Or you might hear people say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time because it's so big. It's that same sort of process. But this is all about stopping negative chatter, stopping that little imposter voice that's sitting here going, Amanda, you shouldn't be doing this. Do you really know what you're doing? You might have done it since 2014, but do you know it? So it's all about those sorts of things. And ask yourself, what's the worst thing that can happen? If it goes wrong, it goes wrong. And we just try again. But you will hear some people, and in particular some VA trainers, who will tell you to fake it. Now, personally, faking it till you make it feels deceitful to me, and honesty is one of my core values. So instead, think about verisimilitude. Now, when I very first heard that word, I had to go and look it up. One of my clients used to use it all of the time, and I had no idea what it meant. I had to go and look it up. But it means to act as if. And I'm like, okay, I can live with that one. So that's a really good word, is acting as if. It's not faking it, because that goes against the values. Anybody have a to-do list every day and tick things off when they've done them? It's a great way of moving forwards. Yeah, I am too. Anybody do something and think, shit, that's not on my to-do list, so they write it anyway so they can go and tick it off? Yeah, that's me too. So do you know what? These are confidence hacks and they work. You might be a strike a pose person or wear something that gives you confidence. So you might have noticed my branding is magenta pink and battleship grey. The reason for that is battleship grey is a safe and secure colour, but magenta pink is a colour that increases confidence. So generally, when you see me, I've got some magenta pink on, my nails are now painted magenta pink, my notebook is magenta pink. It's all about confidence, and it's giving me that confidence of what I'm doing. Okay, so let's talk about those initial steps to being a VA. Being a VA is very different to being an employed PA working from home or on working in a hybrid basis. Now, Prince Waterhouse Cooper used to say they had VAs within their company. No, they didn't. They had employed PAs who worked virtually. And one day a week, they used to come into office. That's not being a virtual assistant. A virtual assistant, first and foremost, is a business owner. If you haven't got clients, you're not getting paid. If you're not working for clients, you're not getting paid. Whereas if we're an employed PA working from home and I want to go and put the washing machine on, do you know what? I'm still getting paid. So this is a mindset shift. And a lot of the things that we're going to talk about is about mindset. So the first bits of homework for you. If you're thinking about becoming a VA or you are in those early days of being a VA, these are the things I want you to do. First of all, we're going to research. Now, who's here feels they've done a ton of research? Yeah? And then what happens? We stop, we procrastinate, we hit a wall because actually all of the VA trainers will tell you to do something slightly different and they all think they're the best and they all do these things. But the reality is we overwhelm ourselves, and too much of that causes procrastination. And because we're PAs, EAs, admin professionals, we also want it to be perfect. And we're looking for the perfect answer. And there isn't one. And so I'm going to encourage you to do a lot of research. But then I want you to stop. And then I want you to take action. Because that is the difference in moving forward. So I always say to people, look at all of the VA trainers, download their freebies, see whose content and style and approach you like. And then when you go, yeah, do you know what, I like that one, and then tune out to all of the others, because otherwise they will contradict each other and you will be paralysed by too much research. So I always encourage people to join the Society of Virtual Assistants, which is our professional body, and then choose one other trainer and go, yeah, do you know what? I'm going to follow that person for now. When you are up, running, fully booked and all of those things, add in the other trainers' stuff and see what they're doing. But in the beginning, choose one person and go, yeah, that's the person I'm going to go with. Now, nobody knows how many VAs there are in the UK or on a global basis. We know there's about 6,500 VAs who are registered with the Society of Virtual Assistants, but nobody truly knows how many VAs there are. And the reason for that in the UK alone is we are an unregulated industry, which means you can call yourself whatever you want and you don't have to be associated with any professional bodies or anything like that. So I go on to share with you shortly a slide where you will just see some of the most common titles that VAs are calling themselves. Now, we know, though, of those 6,500 members and of those within my communities and a lot of the other VA trainers' communities, 3% of them are male, 3% of them are mums with young children at home. And by that, I mean virtual assistants whose children are with them whilst they're trying to run their business on a day-to-day basis. So they're not in nursery, they're not in childcare, they're perhaps homeschooling, etc. Yes, we did see an increase in COVID. Do you know what? That's gone now though, and we've all steadied out again. The industry is evolving. AI and things like that is changing the industry, but AI is not taking our jobs. So what is a virtual assistant? If we were having this conversation back in, 5 years ago, 8 years ago, I would have said to you, a virtual assistant was a freelance administrator who worked from home doing admin support for clients, typically. But do you know what? Nowadays, I've got web developers who call themselves VAs. I've got copywriters that call themselves VAs. Marketing managers call themselves VAs. It's more about a way of working nowadays rather than a specific title to describe one thing. We do know, though, that typically we see, on a global basis, we see VAs fall into 3 categories. Career VAs, so somebody who's trying to create a second career and earn a decent income, effectively replacing what they did. We then see the VA who's looking to do this for about 5 to 10 years, tends to be the slightly maturer VA who's struggling to get a new role or who's fed up working for somebody else and wants to work for themselves, but actually it's 5 to 10 years before they hit pension. And then we tend to call them hobby VAs, but they're the VAs who are doing this as a side hustle alongside their day job because they're wanting to earn some additional income. We used to see the specialisms of traditional VA, tech VA, a social media manager and a lifestyle VA. But as I said to you a second ago, they are so wide and varied nowadays that actually it's just a job title. Now, on the screen, you can see 24 different common job titles for VAs that are currently around. I actually have a list of 70, except I filed it somewhere safe and I can't find it at the moment, but we won't go there. But these are the most common things, okay? None of them are right, none of them are wrong. You need to call yourself what you want to be found. And it's going to depend on the type of people you want to work with and the type of services you want to offer. So please don't get hung up on the job title, okay? But what you might want to do is to weave some of these other job titles into the copy on your website or into the copy on your LinkedIn profile or in your social media profiles in order that somebody else goes, that's the person I need within my business. So let's talk about the services to offer. Well, do you know what? You need to offer what you're good at. And you need to offer the things that are going to make a difference to you. So what are your skills? What are you great at? What are the services you can offer now that you might want to offer something else in the future? Who do you want to support? Is there a market? So is there a market for your skills and the type of people you want to work with? What is your experience? Who's in your network that you can say, do you know what? I've launched a VA business. Do your research. Now, I said research earlier on. I want you to look at lots of VA websites and I want you to write 3 lists. I want you to write a list of the services that they offer that you can do and that you love to do. That's list 1. Can do and love to do. List 2 is a list of the services you can do but you hate doing. And list 3 is a list of services that you see them offer that you think, shit, I don't know how to do that. Okay? Now, list 3 is easy to deal with at this stage. We can just park it. If you don't know how to do something, you either need to invest time, effort, resources, money into learning how to do it, or just parking it. So I'm going to encourage you to park it for today. So list 1 and list 2. Services you can do and you love to do. Well, do you know what? You're going to sell them because actually when we can do it and we love it, it's so much easier to sell. But list of services you can do but you hate doing, well, I'm going to ask you, do you hate doing it because you're not being very well paid for it? Or do you hate doing it because you really do hate that thing? The other reason I get you to look at lots of websites and to list these services is I want you to see the language that people use to describe those services. So let's say you want to work in the medical sector and you want to do audio typing. Well, do you know what? You're more likely to call it medical transcription than you are audio typing in that sector. So you're looking at the words that people are using to attract the type of people they want to work with. In that same vein, we need to think about ideal clients. Now, when I started the research for my VA business, I wanted to work with a tradesman. If you remember, I wanted to offer pay-as-you-go admin support as and when you need it. Do you know what? The tradesmen don't want to pay our rates. And so the reality is, as much as I knew I wanted to make a difference to those people, they weren't going to work with a VA. Now, some do nowadays, but not many. So the reality is you need to identify who your ideal client is. And I want you to create an avatar. And actually, I want you to create 3 avatars. And I want you to name them. And I want you to be really specific. I want you to think about the psychographics as well as the demographics. Because every time you put a social media post out, I want you to think, would John react to that? Would Amanda resonate with the words that I've used? So really think about who you're trying to attract. Now, the primary users of a virtual assistant in the UK are coaches, trainers, speakers, consultants, accountants, solicitors. The people who trade time for money. Now, when I started out in that VA world, if you remember, I wanted to work with a tradesman, because every other VA I knew worked with a coach, a speaker, or a trainer, I went, no way, not doing that, don't want to work with them. The reality is, by 18 months, that's who all my clients were, because those are the people who understand the difference that you can make to them. And so in the military, we used to have a phrase that was called don't fight the white, i.e. don't fight the staff answer. So if we know that actually coaches, trainers, speakers, consultants, accountants, solicitors, those who trade time for money, use VAs, start there. Top tip. Okay. Let's talk about the practicalities. On the left-hand side of the screen, you're going to see the absolute bare minimum that you need to start your VA business. Internet, telephone, computer, insurance, data protection, so registering with the ICO. They've just put their prices up. It's now £52 per year or £45 if you do it on a direct debit. You need to be registered with the ICO. We're currently, SVA and a couple of other lead trainers at the moment are in discussions with the Information Commissioner's Office, because 2 of you could ring them and ask the same question, ask the same question, but get 2 different members of staff in their office and you'll get different advice. So, not helpful. So we're currently discussing with them about making sure what they say to people is coherent. But the reality is, as a VA, not only are you going to be processing data about your clients, names, addresses, telephone numbers, dates of birth, depending on the services you're going to offer, you're going to see your clients' data. So £45 on a DD, register, okay? You also need to have your contracts. Now, there are various providers of contracts in the UK. I would suggest you use one of those providers. Now, I don't take any kickback from any of the providers of VA contracts. So if you go to my website and go to the resources tab, there are discounts there for you. I don't get an affiliate fee or anything like that. I ask the suppliers to discount them completely so that you definitely have contracts, because to me it's really important. Please don't get AI or anything like that to create it. You need to make sure they are specific to the country that you are in and that actually they're going to cover your ass in the event that something goes wrong. Now, the list on the right-hand side are the desirable things that you might want to have for your VA business. And the reason the top one has two little asterisks is I actually think that should be over on the other side. A domain-specific email address is critical, okay? If you use a free version of Gmail, the home version of Microsoft or something like that, you are not licensed for business use. And therefore, if something went wrong, your insurance company would not cover you. So you need to decide the name of your business, buy your domain name. You don't have to get the website set up, but get the domain specific email address, because we want to make sure that should something go wrong, then actually your insurance is going to cover you. Everything else can come in time. It doesn't have to be there on day one. Let's talk about money. I currently work with VAs who are just starting out through to VAs that are on multi-six figures, some of them turning over $500,000, over $500,000, okay? There's no right or wrong answer here. Those that are turning over $500,000, if any of you have got those aspirations, are not doing it on their own. They have a large team, a team of about 30 plus, okay? But I have VAs that are turning over six figures doing it on just their own. So I share this with you so that you can see it's a wide range thing. We're an unregulated industry and I cannot tell you what you have to charge as a VA. What I can tell you is that in the Society of VA's annual survey, the current average is about £34 a year. £34 a year? £34 an hour. But what I can say to you is I have VAs typically charging anywhere from £25 an hour to £50 an hour currently today, okay? And I've got some that are a little bit more than that. Most of the VAs I work with are charging anywhere between £30 and £40 an hour consistently, okay? They may say they'll sell their time as ad hoc hourly rates or in packages of 10, 20, 30 or 40 hours. There are some VA trainers out there who will say you must sell your services as a package, as a bundle, email marketing, email management, office management, whatever it is. But the reality is those trainers who tell you to sell like that, at this stage, you don't know how long something's going to take. So I would encourage you to sell your time as either ad hoc hourly rates or packages of 10, 20, 30 or 40 hours. In time, in a few years' time, when you know how long things take, yes, rate your bundles and whatever, but you have to know how long something takes first. I also want you to think about, are you going to charge in advance or in arrears? There's no right or wrong answer. Your business, you get to decide, okay? But think about, do you want to invoice in advance or in arrears? Most VAs, if they're invoicing for ad hoc hourly rate, will invoice in arrears, but if they're invoicing for retainer packages of 10, 20, 30 or 40 hours, they tend to invoice in advance. Okay? I'm going to encourage you to track your time to the minute. And the reason for that is we say to clients, pay for what you use. And then all of a sudden we'll throw in this, oh yeah, but I round up to the nearest 15, or you must have a minimum of an hour. Well, that's not congruent with what we've said. We're saying pay for what you use. The time tracking software tracks to the minute. If you use something like MinuteDoc, it actually tracks to the 400th of a second. So do you know what? Track your time to the minute. It's much more fairer to the client, but also fair to you as well. My final bit on pricing is too cheap puts off the good clients. The cheapest I've spoken to somebody about this year is a VA in the UK charging £10 an hour. Not good. Below minimum wage. She didn't have insurance. She didn't have ICO registration. She didn't have contracts because she couldn't afford to buy them. And so the reality is you don't want to be in that place. Charge a decent rate, allows you to have the fundamentals in place, but actually clients will respect it. And clients know what your going rate is. You might be sat there thinking, do I need a business plan? Yes. Simple answer. Doesn't have to be a complicated 25-page document. It can be as simple as, what's my 10-year goal? What's my 5-year goal? What's my 3-year goal? What's my 12 months from today goal? And then It might be, well, how am I going to get those clients that are going to help me get to those goals? So that would be your marketing plan. So your business plan could be as simple as, here's my 10, 5, 3, 12 months goal. Here's my pricing strategy. I'm going to review it annually. I'm going to sell in ad hoc hourly rates, 10, 20, 30, 40 hours, etc. And this is how I'm going to get my clients. Now, for many years, we have said it takes 7 to 14 touch points before somebody buys from you. So that means meeting somebody 7 to 14 times at a networking event, maybe somebody engaging or having a conversation with you or commenting on your social media. Marketing latest though is it's actually 20 to 40 touch points, because we are all on so much social media and we see so many other things that actually we tune out to an awful lot nowadays. And so we've gone from 7 to 14 touch points to 20 to 40 touch points. And this is why we talk about having an omnipresence with our social media and our marketing. We know that typically VAs get their clients from their existing network of connections, followed by face-to-face networking, followed by social media. Now, those three things change order if you're in the US and Canada. And in the US and Canada, it becomes your existing network of connections, followed by social media, then the face-to-face networking. But if you're UK and Europe, it's the order that's on the screen, okay? Now, that is not saying you need to sell to your friends and family. What it's saying is everybody needs to know what you do and who you do it for. And so this is about making sure that you have that coherent message and things like that. And I always say it's when somebody lands on your website or your social media and they go, she's talking to me, or he's talking to me. We're trying to invoke that reaction, okay? And so this is why it's really important to know who that ideal client is and to weave that ideal client into your marketing plan. Because we need to know where that ideal client is going to hang out. Are they on social media? Which platforms are they on? Now, back in 2012, I said, no way on earth am I doing social media for my VA business. Not as long as my rear end points downwards. Do not want to do this, don't like it, and I still don't like social media if I'm absolutely honest with you. But social media is a marketing tool, and I've got my head around that. So Amanda Johnson, not on social media a great deal. VACT, yes, is on social media, and it's a marketing activity. However, Amanda is effectively an employee of VACT, and so Amanda has a social media presence, and you will see it as me engaging in Facebook communities and things like that. Now, you don't have to be on all the platforms, but I would encourage you to create your accounts on all of the platforms so that you save the name, okay? Please use a picture, not a logo, because people do business with people, and people they know, like and trust. And so make sure it's a picture of you smiling. I know that sounds really strange, but smiling at the camera, not in your wedding dress, not with your dog, not with all of those things. We need it to be you. And I'm going to encourage you to use the same picture on all social media platforms. Think back to 20 to 40 touch points. People resonate with that image. So when you look at my social media picture, you'll see the same on LinkedIn as you will on Facebook personal, as you will on my Facebook business page, as you will on my Instagram, etc. Because I'm trying to build that relationship with you, okay? Optimize the bio. So if you're on a platform and you're not going to use it, so let's say you create a Twitter account, but you're not using Twitter, still optimize the bio so you benefit from the links, but actually put a post up that says, hey, I'm not active over on this platform, but you can find me over here on LinkedIn or on Instagram, and take them to where you want them to be. Okay? So effectively, a business plan is just a strategy, because you are the CEO of your business, you are the doer in the business, the person that's going to do the work for clients, but you're also the finance director, the marketing department, the sales department, the social media manager. You're also the cleaner and the tea's maid, but we won't go there, okay? So all a business plan is a strategy to help you get to where you want to be. If you're wanting funding from a bank or something like that, yes, you want the bigger, full, in-depth business plan. But if it's just you, create the 10, the 5, the 3, the 12 months from today, and then break it down into 90-day segments, okay? I've got a couple of other slides to share with you. Hopefully, today's session has got you thinking about how serious you are about setting up this business, how you're going to do it, you're not going to worry about everybody else, and what you're willing to do to get there. And hopefully you've got some homework to do. But one of the big things that's going to make a difference for you is that accountability. Accountability is critical to making this work, irrespective of whether you're just starting out or whether you're a seasoned VA. And that could be through a coach, a trainer, a mentor, a friend, a Facebook friend. It could be the PaliTalk community. It could be a WhatsApp. You could put in the WhatsApp group and say, like, do you know what? I'm procrastinating over doing something specifically. Anybody around who fancies kicking my butt to make sure I get it done? Okay? That's where accountability comes into this. Co-working sessions, PaliTalk co-working sessions. But also think, actually, have I got a friend who's on a similar stage of journey and maybe a different industry or something else, but we can just have regular calls and just keep each other motivated. You'll see there are specific VA Facebook groups, there's masterminds, there's friends, families. Find who's going to keep you accountable. Think back to, what's my vision? Where am I heading? What's the plan that I'm going to do to do it? And who's going to kick my ass to make sure I do it? Now, I'm just going to share different ways that people do stuff and I've used the VACT to demonstrate it, but I want you to realise, do you know what? You don't have to do a course to launch a VA business. You don't have to invest in courses, hours, memberships, or whatever. There's lots of free resources out there. There's free Facebook communities, there's blogs, there's webinars, there's attending events. There's speaking at events to help you get clients, okay? So just think laterally and literally where you need support. And that's why I just share this, is think about what's the difference out there. Attending the PaliTalk training webinars, you will learn so much that you can apply to your business and how you help your clients, okay? So knowing your vision and what to expect, tick. We need to do that. We want to create the life you want. You'll notice nowhere have I talked about work-life balance, because for me, I don't believe in work-life balance. I believe in work-life integration and making conscious decisions to get us where we want to be. And sometimes that means that something else is going to suffer because I've made a conscious decision to do something. So knowing your vision and your values to create the life you want, putting the time aside to do the work. We've talked about the research, and then stop. And we're going to take actions based on the research we have done. We're going to play the long game. We're not going to compare our start to somebody else's start, middle or end, because they are not us. They don't have the same vision. They don't have the same core values. So this is about being you, being awesome, but actually it's about being accountable to somebody or to yourself. I've shared with you some various exercises today that I think would be really helpful for you. We've talked about the values exercise. We've talked about working out your vision to help you create your business plan. If you're stuck about the steps you need to take, there's a free checklist on my website that's going to help you. And it gives you the order and it links to the various organisations where you need to register. So people like the ICO, etc. We're going to research the industry, but we're going to take action. And if you're stuck, then I am always happy to have conversations with people. I offer free discovery calls. They're not sales calls. I don't sell to anybody on those calls. They are purely to help somebody move forwards. Because sometimes it's just talking it through with somebody to get, that's my niche. And to be fair, I shouldn't have used that word, because a niche is just a marketing tool and you don't need a niche to be a VA. So bin everything that Amanda's just said about the word niche, okay? But for me, the book that changed my life is a book that's called it's called The Go-Giver by Bob Berg and John David Mann. It's a small business parable. It's a couple of hours read. And the principles of it are you need to be a go-giver, that people do business with people they know, like and trust. And so for me, my discovery calls are about a way of helping the VA industry move forwards rather than selling to somebody. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm trying to think, have I got any more slides? Yes, I do. Thank you. I'm here for any questions. I'm going to go and look in the chat. I've yet to work out the chat function properly. I will be honest. And I don't know if you can see questions or I've just missed it. Go back. So I've put my email address there. If you've got questions, I don't know if you can unmute and you can ask them live, or whether you want to, let's see if we can break the tech. So if anybody's got questions, then tell me. Either tell me or wave at me or something. I can see some of you. Go on then, Tanya. Will it let you unmute? Try it. Yes, cool. Go on then. What questions have you got?
Hi, lovely to meet you and everyone on the call. So you mentioned the retainer, putting a retainer if you are charging in packages. But I was talking to a friend who is a VA, and she hasn't done this, but she knows of VAs who put a retainer on their hourly rates as well.
Yeah, so that's what I'm talking about. So a retainer would be a 10, 20, 30 or 40 hours per month, and you decide whether you're going to do 10 times your hourly rate. So let's say your hourly rate is £35. You might say my 10-hour rate is 350, my 20-hour rate is 700, my 30-hour rate, etc. Some people go, no, if you're going to retain me, ad hoc hourly rate is 35, but my 10-hour rate is going to be 34, so it would be 340, and my 20-hour rate is going to be 33, and they have a reduced sliding scale. There's no right or wrong answer. But what you need to remember is what's in it for the client. We know what's in it for us when somebody retains us. We know we've got 10 hours work or 20 hours of work. You need to think about what's in it for the client. How can you sell it? And this is why it used to have a slightly reduced price, is because people would go, oh, well, do you know what? You're saving X amount of pounds per month or whatever. And for some people, that's the motivator because they were about the money. For others, they go, I'm not worried about the money bit. Do I get more of you? Do I get a catch-up call with you? Do you prioritize retainer hours work over ad hoc work? So it's that sort of, what's the benefit to the client? Does that make sense?
Thank you very much.
Have you launched your business yet?
No. So as I said in the chat, I'm kind of doing all my homework at the moment, and I'm very much in the corporate world, which I very much want to get out of at this stage in my life. So I've got some things that I have to do before I make the leap. So I'm doing all my kind of background stuff at the moment.
You're doing your research. Cool. So your background, you've been at the same company 14 years? Yeah. So this is where thinking about, okay, well, I'm coming with this amount of experience, etc. Where do I price it? What am I looking to do? So am I looking for other corporate type clients? Am I going to look for those coaches, those trainers, those speakers, those consultants? How do I position it? And what you need to remember is ad hoc hourly rate is great, but if you need a particular level of income per month, so let's say you want to bring in, I don't know, £3,000 a month, you're never going to get there tomorrow. So this is why we're trying to go, and we might go, oh yeah, but 3K would be 3 40-hour clients. It's like, yeah, but do you know what? It's really hard to get 3 40-hour clients, whereas you might get 8 10-hour clients or whatever. Okay? Does that help?
Thank you.
No worries. Any other questions? I'm trying to work this chat, and I've worked out that oh no, that's a chat thingy. I can see that people have chatted, but it doesn't, I have to go into each of you, I think, to see it. No. Okay, I'm failing miserably. If anybody else has got questions, if you want to wave at me or unmute, because I've yet to work out the tech. Charlotte, any? Vanessa? No? No? Okay. I think that's us then. Well, thank you for joining me. If you have questions after today, please just reach out, drop me a message. You can either do it via email, you can do it in the WhatsApp community, the Pally Talk community. I am I found the live stream chat. I've just pinged on my thing and I've just seen where it is. But in all seriousness, if you've got questions, if you want some help with anything, then please feel free to reach out, drop me a message, and I would love to help you. Okay? Thank you very much for joining me. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you later. Bye-bye.